This season of Crazy Sexy Food is sponsored by KJ's. KJ's is an independent, family-run business that has been making specialty sauces for professional chefs and home cooks like myself since 1985. KJ's first launched with its Goldfish brand curry sauce concentrates. More recently, they launched Taste KJ's of Suffolk. Inspired by travels to wonderful destinations around the world, these are 6 authentic, quick and easy cook-in sauces and 4 Asian-inspired squeezy sauces. My particular favourites are the Spanish tomato sauce with its added paprika, as well as the Thai po chili sauce to rev up my meals. Order my favourites as well as the whole collection from keejaysauces.co.uk. That's KEEJAYS sauces.co.uk. Hello and welcome to Crazy Sexy Food. I'm your host, Hannah Harley-Young. I'm interested not only in food, but the people behind the food and the stories behind the people. Each episode, I sit down and talk all things food with well-known personalities, industry insiders, and people who, well, just love their food. Today I'm joined by Josh Franceschi, the frontman of the UK's biggest and most prolific rock band, You Me at 6. The band's huge following spans into the millions on various social media platforms. They've had a UK #1 album and 4 top 10 records. Their sellout tour last year saw them perform around the country, and although live music is somewhat on hiatus at the moment, the guys have been very busy this year. In January 2021, they released their new album, Sucker Punch, which has been tipped as their most ambitious yet by NME magazine. It was recorded in Thailand, BC, before COVID, at a time that the band were going through some emotional and challenging times. More on this in a bit. I'm lucky enough to have had a sneak peek and I already have my favourites lined up. The guys are huge foodies like myself, so it only seemed right to get the main man onto the podcast for a chat. Josh, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Sorry, we got there in the end. We've had a few technical issues, but it's fine. We have special Steve Jobs impersonators with us online.
Yeah.
How are you? How you been?
Yeah, good, thank you. How about yourself?
Yeah, just rolling with the punches, taking each day as it comes. Yeah. I'm a bit fed up, if I'm honest, but it is what it is.
For sure.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
I haven't had breakfast yet. Just.
Are you going to?
Well, we've sort of gone past breakfast hours now, haven't we? I think I've had a coffee and I've had a run, so I think that'll do me to have lunch.
Oh, okay. Are you a runner?
Not a good one. But because obviously all the gyms and everything's closed at the moment, and I can't play football or go boxing, so I want to try and stay on top of some sort of routine. Plus, I find that it's good for my sort of my spirit, if that makes sense. I feel better mentally when I've done some exercise and got the endorphins going and that. So
yeah, I'm a runner too. Well, I say I'm a runner like I'm like some professional athlete. I ran the London Marathon last year, and I've got this weird mental block this year. I think I've been mentally scarred, and I can't run more than 5 kilometers now. Literally can't go past. My body just stops.
Shit.
Yeah,
that's not fun.
It's weird. No, and it's just, I don't know, I think I've kind of sucked the enjoyment out of it. But anyway, obviously it's been a bit of a year. Has that kind of compromised your inspiration to write music, or have you kind of managed to find ways to create? How's it gone for you?
There's been ups and downs, I think. There's been periods of time in which been quite active and been in the studio and done loads of sessions and been writing and journaling, every day. And then there's some days, especially at the beginning, I think the beginning of this whole absolute meltdown of a year, I was sort of taking it as a weird vacation. And so I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'm going to just start drinking at midday and watch Surviving R. Kelly because that's normal. You know what I mean? It was that sort of thing. And, and then I just kind of snapped out of that. And more, I got basically told snap out of it. And then I realised that it was really important to get a sort of a healthy routine on the go. And so that did include, being active artistically and sort of putting some of my, thoughts and feelings down one way or the other. But yeah, I mean, I'm in the studio right now with the lads, and it's like, we're trying to get something going. It's just difficult. I think it's as I said, some days that we get into it and we're like, yeah, we're on a roll and things feel really good and feel like we're sort of where we want to be going. And other days I'm sort of like, nah, this is just a car crash today. So it's, yeah, depends.
And I think that's okay. I think
Yeah.
you've just got to like allow yourself a bit of a break with that as well, and just not put too much pressure on like trying to like be happy and like great every single day, because I just don't think that's achievable right now.
No, of course. Like, there's also like this. We have like, as like part of the human condition, we have this slight obsession with like happiness and the pursuit of it. And like happiness is like more a destination than it is anything else, and it's not attainable, 365 days a year. And I think being at peace with the fact that, you kind of you have to go through those droughts of happiness to then sort of really not just enjoy them and not necessarily just like appreciate them, but to recognize them for that. So it's like I'm totally cool with being, in a bit bad mood or feeling low, because I know that it's good for my writing, and B, that it's part of being a human being. It's not realistic to feel good all the time. So yeah, I don't get too bogged down with it.
I want to just take it a little bit back to your childhood. You were born in Surrey. Can you kind of like paint the picture for me? What was life like growing up? Who was cooking? What were you eating? Was food important in your family? Like, just sort of like give me the story.
Sure. Well, I mean, so my upbringing was interesting in the sense that I spent some of my life living in Cyprus, like the early years,
Whereabouts?
Limassol.
I've been to Limassol.
Yeah, so I was
Yeah,
there
it's
for,
beautiful.
yeah, it is. It's really nice. But I obviously was quite young at the time. I was only like, I think 4 till 6. I lived there, and then the rest of my life, like, grew up in Weybridge, Surrey. But my dad's Corsican, so like, kind of food is kind of like the heart and the soul of any Mediterranean family. It's the thing that kind of brings everybody together. And my mum was always the one cooking. My dad would come down for like those rogue meals, where he'd like just chuck out a paella on a Wednesday night, and we'd all be like,
Casual.
"What's going on here?" But yeah, no, food and meal times were always important enough in the Franceski household, because it was like we always sat at the table in the dining room or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's not really a dining room, but the point being that like we always made a conscious effort to sit at the table, and like we'd sit there sometimes like an hour and a half, 2 hours talking, and that was really, really healthy. And that, again, that kind of stems from that Mediterranean vibe we got going on. And I think it taught me from an early age that there was a relationship with food and experiencing that together and sharing that, and it being a place in which people sort of, dissected their day or their thoughts and their feelings. So even from a very early age, I was quite used to being quite open and transparent with my parents, and them in turn also being that way with me and my sister. So yeah, it sent like a really nice precedent for like the rest of my life, really. My childhood and the relationship that we had with dinner time, and it being real family time, and there being like real conversation going on. So yeah.
I think that's really important. I was also raised like that, where you sort of sat down, sort of, as you said, like dissected your day, dissected what was on your mind, like everything was covered. I do think that is quite like a European thing to do. Like, I have a lot of friends who didn't sit down with their families, and that was quite foreign to me.
Mm.
And so, who was cooking? What sort of things were you eating on like a regular basis, aside from like your dad's rogue paella?
Well, yeah, it was my mum basically did all the cooking. My dad was also away quite a lot, so with work, so it was really kind of my mum, my sister, and me for large portions of it. Um, but it was never like, it was always like fresh food. fresh vegetables. And meat wasn't really like I've been vegan for like 5-6 years now, but it's interesting that even when I was young, like meat wasn't really like, there wasn't meat with every meal. It wasn't like the staple of any meal. It was about the vegetables and salads and sort of good carbohydrates. And I think growing up there was sort of like, whenever my mum would be like, right, tonight you got salmon and vegetables, I'd be like, oh, here we go. And then when it was, tuna pasta bake, that was a good day. It was not always a good day, but it was never like fish fingers and chips, that sort of thing. It wasn't that. It was always like my mum would go in and that was it. There was, even regardless of how tired she was, or how much work she had going on, she would always make sure that we were eating fresh fruit, fresh vegetables every day. And so I was really lucky in that sense that A, we were in a position to do that, and B, that she had the desire to put that together. So yeah, it was interesting because obviously then I'd go to school, and like school lunches would be, I'd have a packed lunch, but like I'd see what my mates were eating. I was like, I don't know how a slice of pizza every day with some baked beans and chips is like really a vibe, but fair play. Yeah, that was always like that sort of stuff, and like fizzy drinks, which is something that just didn't really happen in my house either. It would be more like juice or just water, to be honest. It wasn't, yeah, in that sense, like we had a pretty healthy relationship with food as well. It wasn't just eating for the sake of eating; it was eating to try and get nutrients and out of stuff. So, yeah.
I feel like you and I grew up in the same household. Everything that you said is literally, it was like tuna pasta bake was like the best night of the week.
Yeah. Most of the time,
I also wasn't allowed crisps. I was only
yeah.
allowed one packet of crisps a week.
Yeah, it just wasn't a thing. Like crisp, like
Yeah.
snacks wasn't really a thing.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because now I'm older. I'm like, where the snacks at? But when I
Yeah.
was a kid, it was sort of like I'd have my cereal in the morning, I'd have my packed lunch, come home, and about 6 o'clock have dinner, and that was it. And there wasn't really like this thing of eating loads in between meals. So I don't really know
Yeah.
why I was so fat as a kid. It doesn't really make much sense, but I don't know what that was about.
It was probably just like, that puppy fat. I mean, listen, I was a bit of a chubby kid as well, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
So you formed the band in 2004, and you are all childhood friends. What's it like working with your mates?
It's a weird one, because like obviously I didn't go to school with any of them. None of us went to the same schools. It was only really in college that the other four like were seeing each other on a daily basis. But other than that, we were like, I think it was like 15, 16, and we were definitely 15. And like I met Max in a mosh pit at a local gig, and he was like wearing this shirt from this record label that I liked. So we just started chatting, and I think that night we started a band. It was that kind of vibe. Like it wasn't, there was nothing else to it other than, oh, you like the same sort of music I do. Met Matt through a similar sort of situation. Chris lived next door to Matt, and then Dan was brought in when the lads were at Brooklands College, and so pretty much since like 16, 17, these guys have been like they are my life, like every sort of move we all make is based around this band. And until like a year like this year, it's almost been weird being back in the studio. Like we decided to do like Lockdown Volume 2 kind of together, and so we just kind of made a decision that we want to be productive, but it was also like this is the first time this year that I've seen these guys like every day, and that's what I'd been used to. So it's been a strange thing in that sense, but yeah, I mean, when you start a band with people when you're 15, 16, and you're now all in your 30s, it's been a long time. We're celebrating our 15th year next year, which is kind of mad that we've just been doing it that long. So we've essentially grown up from boys to men. And
Name for a good band.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've done the dance a few times.
And was music always on the cards for you? Like when you were growing up, was that always what you wanted to do with yourself?
To be honest, I think that I didn't really have a passion for anything, and then I used to watch my sister play. When I was playing video games, she'd be like in the in the lit TV room, like playing piano and like singing next to me. And I was just kind of like, I just liked the freedom that she had with having an instrument in her life, that both singing as well, but having a piano, being able to sit down and do that. I was like, she's getting something out of this that is like quite liberating. And so that's when I started learning the guitar. Um, and to be honest, there was no point during either secondary school or college that I had like a plan for anything else. I didn't really know, like many kids, like I didn't really know what I wanted to be. I was still trying to figure out who I was, you know, and what I was about. Um, to be honest, the band just kind of happened, you know, like it wasn't this thing of let's start a band, we're going to get famous, oh, we're going to get signed, you know, we'll start touring. It was just sort of like we were doing it and we all just loved doing it. And I don't think any of us ever really thought we were going to make a career out of it, but it was more like a thing of, I got to the end of my first year of college and I was like, oh man, that place sucks. I don't want to go back there. They're not my people. And an opportunity came around where we're like, well, we've got a little bit of momentum with the band. Why not just give it a go? What's the worst that can happen? A year later, I'll go back to college if it doesn't work. And I never went back. So, yeah, I'm not one of those kids that was like, yeah, I had trials at West Ham, you know, or the classic sort of stereotype of I was going to be a footballer, or I was going to be this. I didn't have anything really. And then music just kind of came into my life. But when it came into my life, it just took over my life. And like during that year, my last year of secondary school, my first year of college, I was just obsessed with like being the best and biggest local band and like being the only band from our area to, you know, I was like, we've got to go and play gigs in Scotland and Manchester because we've got to be like that band, you know. And we all just kind of became obsessed with it. And yeah, next thing you know, we're getting like mega buses up to Aberdeen and sleeping on the floor of the venue after a gig and being 16, you know, like doing that.
Amazing.
And so we
Do you
had
know
that
what's
kind of
nice as well is that, I mean,
mentality.
I'm not obviously talking for every new band or musician sort of breaking out now, but it's nice to hear like about the organicness of how you guys formed. I think
Mm.
these days there's a big generation that are kind of coming through the machine, and it's just it's how it sort of like fell into place. It's nice. I like it.
Yeah, look, it's for me, it's the romantic way of doing it,
Yeah.
you know, and it's like not necessarily earning your stripes, and in that sense, I mean, I have no qualms with this generation now that are getting signed because they've got a big following on TikTok or Instagram or YouTubers gone rappers, you know, like their journey is their journey. But I tell you what, there is something quite character building about being not only individually but collectively, like having that period of time where you have absolutely nothing, but at the same time you have everything. And I'm kind of relieved in a sense that our inception happened pre social media, to be
Oh
honest.
my God, I say this
You
all the
know?
time. I don't
Yeah,
think I would have survived my teens with social media, let alone starting a band like you did.
yeah. Well, yeah, because then the focus is on the wrong thing. The focus is
Totally.
on, you know, music and the relationship with music and an audience is that human connection and that relationship. And I think if you're more focused on taking good pictures for the gram or coming off stage and diving straight back into the social media world and that sort of shit, you're missing out on like those rare and beautiful moments where you're connecting with people after a gig, you know, outside your van, signing stuff or taking pictures or having some beers or whatever, and then being like, right, guys, we got to go because we've got a 3 hour drive to our travel lodge, and then we've got a 4 hour drive in the morning and all this sort of stuff. Like those are the things that you then start finding out how badly you want it. But I mean, our thing was we just liked the idea of not having to go to uni, to be honest, and all, like the band in itself was like a vehicle of escaping the sort of stereotype next step, you know, the
Yeah.
logical next step, which is you go to college, you go to uni, you get your degree, you get your job, you meet your partner, you get a house, you get your kids on the go, whatever. And it's like, fuck, I'm not really up for that, you know,
Yeah.
like I'm not, yeah, it didn't appeal to any of us. The adventure side of it, like even if the adventure was I mean, as a story, we one of the first tours we ever did, I booked through MySpace. So I guess we were
Oh,
kind of,
MySpace. God, I
yeah,
loved MySpace.
I guess we kind of were like involved in social media in some capacity, but MySpace was sort of like, I don't know, when I look back on it now and compare it to what we have now,
Yeah.
I feel like there is a difference. But and we booked a gig in Newport, Wales, at a venue called TJ's, and we went up and played this gig. I think I was 16, the rest of the lads were 17. And there was 4 people at the gig, if that. Um, and then the deal with the venue is that there's like a flat upstairs that you can sleep at. Um, and in the flat, there's a TV, but on the TV, all it shows is CCTV. So we're like 5 like teenagers just with a few bottles of White Lightning watching the madness going on downstairs in this now club night, which is it's a bar club thing, that a venue club thing, and it's all kicking off. And I remember just being like, the only thing separating us from that scraffle downstairs is this one random door that doesn't really have a lock on it coming into this flat, all sleeping in sleeping bags on the floor and doing that sort of stuff. Like, I think it then it consolidates the identity of what's important, and what's important is kind of just like experiencing that stuff. And I think it shaped us really for the next stages of our career that built and built.
Just bringing it back to the food a second, I know that you mentioned you are a vegan and you have
Yeah,
been for like 5, 6 years.
yeah,
Why did you decide to take that route in life?
yeah. So I was with a girl at the time that was pescatarian, and it just sort of started off with that. And then I think, as time went on, I went pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan. It's not like I woke up one day and went, that's it, I'm cutting everything out. It was a gradual thing. And so then I think, like, I kind of got to a point where I couldn't ignore the stuff I was watching about animal agriculture, and I guess the relationship between that and climate change. And I think I'm not one of those preachy vegans like they do my nutting, even though we're kind of on the same side. I think people should be allowed to make their choice, and but I also think what's been really healthy, for example, in our band's dynamic, or even in my family's dynamic, is that we've now got I've got another vegetarian in our band now, and probably the other 3 would mainly eat vegetarian food in comparison to eating meat every day. And it's about allowing people to make their decision if they're on that sort of side of it. But also, if you're not going to completely stop eating meat, just maybe not having it 7 days a week, having it 3-4 days a week. And I think it's just that relationship with, on the other side of it, I think having an animal helps. I have, having a dog, I'm like, I know, I don't see the people kind of separate the two things, but I look at my dog and I'm like, well, that's an animal, and I know the relationship I have with that animal. So for the last 5-6 years, I've had that relationship with all animals on every level. I'm like, well, you've got to sort of nurture that and sort of promote animals being able to live in their natural habitat, and us not sort of putting them in these animal farms and, essentially raising livestock just to kill them. So there's that for me. But at the same time, I'm like, I understand why it's difficult for there to be a complete overhaul in society and people's relationship with food. And I think, I've got, my partner isn't vegetarian or isn't vegan, but she basically eats vegan with me. And then if we go out to a restaurant, she'll be like, I'm gonna have the seafood linguine. I'm like, that's that's what you want to do it, sort of thing. So I think it's just about maybe people having a slightly more cohesive and like more well-rounded respect for the livestock and how it's got there. And again, for me, it is you look at animal agriculture and the deforestation and sort of the emissions of gas that are going into the environment. It's not something that is like a conspiracy, like it is happening. So I'm glad that we've got that big baby out of out of that big White House, because I think to ignore climate change and
Yeah.
not take it seriously, I'm not saying animal agriculture is the only thing that contributes to it. Of course, it's not, but it's definitely one of the biggest contributors. So I think that's a pretty strong argument for why it's not the worst thing in the world for people to try and bring that into their diet, you know?
No, totally. Interestingly, like even for me, obviously I care and I read and research a lot about, what's going on in the world.
Yeah,
Actually, for me, my choice in terms of how I eat, so I just eat very little meat these days, like in moderation. But
yeah,
I'd happily also give it up if I had to, and perhaps maybe I will go down that route. My issue with myself turning vegan, and you're probably just going to laugh and just think I'm just another one of these whatevers. I'm going to find it really difficult to give up eggs.
okay, yeah. It's
Like
either
that's a really big part of my diet.
yeah, it's either eggs or cheese seems to be the
Yeah, I
thing.
mean cheese, but quite frankly, I shouldn't really be eating dairy anyway because it doesn't do wonders for my skin, but or my tummy. But the eggs is a really difficult one,
Mm,
and I can't seem to like get out of it.
yeah, I hear that. It's weird. It's whenever I have these conversations with my friends or family or extended family or whatever, it's never, oh, I just can't see myself giving up beef. It's never that. It's
Mm,
never that conversation. A lot of people that I talk to on a level will be like, oh, well, I'd find it hard being on a holiday and, not having fish that's caught that day, or, I'd find it difficult giving up cheese because I like having cheese and wine, or have a middle
yeah,
class backgrounds, but like it is what it is. But like, it's very rare that thing of like, oh, I just fucking love chicken. I won't be able to give up chicken. I love going to KFC. It's never that. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, um, yeah, it's an interesting one. I think a lot of it's personal choice, and I think also, well, it's all personal choice, but it's what works for the individual. But I think as a collective and as a society, we do need to sort of wake up to the fact that it's not sustainable the way things are going, and I feel like meat should become more of like a luxury. Um, and the way you could do that is you price it that way. Like
Mm.
I'm not saying that like only affluent people or people with money should be able to buy meat, but I'm saying like the relationship between that being a dead animal and on your plate shouldn't be 1.99 from, you know, cottage kitchen or whatever it's called. Do you know what I mean? Like I think there's a relationship with food in which we don't value the livestock involved in it. And I think if that happened, or there was a limit to what people were, I mean, none of this stuff is ever going to come into play, but well, at least I don't think so. But it's interesting now when you look at stuff like Beyond Meat, for example, as a company where a lot of meat eaters are eating those burgers blindly and not knowing that they're vegan or plant based.
So I had my first Beyond Meat burger 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. What do you think?
I actually really liked it.
Mm,
I thought it was really nice. I mean, it's the closest I've ever got to eating something that was meat free, that was meant to look and taste and feel like meat. I'd buy it again
mm.
happily.
Because again, it's that thing I find sometimes that like it's it's like that will always come up like, oh, it doesn't taste the same, it doesn't have the same texture, it's not this, it's not that. But I think most people will put their hands up and go, yeah, I don't like the idea that I'm eating an
Yeah,
animal. Like I don't,
yeah,
that doesn't make me feel good on a conscious level, but
yeah.
like on a moral level or an ethical level. But it's, how do I replace that texture, that taste, or whatever. And like now that we're in this period of time where there's so many kind of like other options coming through that are starting to match up, that could be a really interesting shift, I think,
But it's
culturally.
actually interesting what you said about, just talking about money. You can go to a chicken cottage and you can get something for £1.
Mm,
But actually, like, just those Beyond Meat burgers were actually quite expensive
yeah,
for what they were. So there needs to be a shift as well
on the other
on the
side.
other side.
Yeah, for
Because if
sure.
you really want to attract, the mass population,
Mm,
you're still pricing it at a level that people are not going to even have a second look at that, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
£5 for, or whatever it was, for two patties, when next to it you could just get the real meat for
Mm.
£2.50, like for a lot of people it's a no-brainer.
100%, couldn't agree more. What's weird is that actually being a vegan, sometimes when I go shopping, I'm like, how is this vegan cheese more expensive than
Yeah,
normal cheese?
yeah.
Uh, it is one of those things, like, it doesn't really make too much sense. So I think you're spot on. There's definitely a disproportion in terms of, you know, what people are paying for it versus, and I don't know whether that's because that's, again, something that we've just been, it's a generational thing where it's been, it's been priced that way for so long that, if say the vegan option or vegetarian option was less expensive than the meat option, what would that look like? So I think there's work 100% to be done on both sides. I think that's a really valid point, and one I completely agree with and recognize to be, completely true.
Yeah. A couple years ago, you guys did a collaboration with Temple of Satan, where
Yeah.
you created a vegan kebab pop up called You Meet at Sheesh, which was a brilliant play on words, may I say. So, what were you serving?
Oh man. So I don't. For those who don't know about Temple of Satan, one of my friends actually from Australia. There's a place over in Australia called Lord of the Fries, and I think,
Ha! Love it.
yeah, yeah. So they kind of, that's kind of their thing. They have a play on words with all the Aussies are good at that sort of stuff. And so yeah, Temple of Satan, when they brought it over here, was just sort of like, it's basically junk food, fast food, um, but all vegan, plant based. And when we came to the idea of how we wanted to sort of like do like a launch party for the album that was slightly different, that conversation came into play, and we ended up doing stuff like uh, just like wraps and burgers and fried chicken and all this different stuff and mac and cheese, but it was all based around Unit 6 song titles and stuff, which was cool. Uh, and then we also had like a cocktail bar going on with, again, different drinks that are based around, Unit 6 um, song titles and stuff. But it was a cool thing to do. And again, it sort of was, originally we were going to go into like it just like a normal kebabi and like flip it and like them just serve stuff out there. And I was like, well, I think I'd like to do, if we're going to do this, I'd like to do it with my mate. And they've got this amazing thing. And now they've got one and they've got a Temple of Satan in Camden as well. So it's one of those things that's spreading across London. But yeah, there's stuff like that all over the gaff, all
Yeah.
over the place. So
What are some of your favorite restaurants aside from Temple of Satan?
some of my favorite restaurants. Mildred is decent. They've got a few of them around town. What the Pitta is always
What's
really good.
that?
So What the Pitta is like a vegan doner kebab place. They've got one in all the box parks, and they've got one in again in Camden. But yeah, really good. There used to be a restaurant in Dawson called Fed by Water, which was,
I've been there.
yeah, it's. I mean, I live like about 10-minute walk from there, and I was absolutely devastated when it closed. I used to go there probably once, twice
It's
a week.
shut.
Yeah, they closed it.
Oh no.
That's probably my favorite. And there was also this really cool uh, vegan Mexican place in Dawson as well, which is closed down.
Have you been to what's the place near Shoreditch? Oh my Genesis.
Yeah, I've been to Genesis. Yeah, this is it. This is the other thing, is living in London. There's a lot of great
Yeah.
sort of like vegan places, and I mean, there's a place I found in Los Angeles called Gracias
Oh,
Madre.
oh my god, it's one of my favorite places in LA.
Yeah, yeah, it's sick. So,
Yeah, oh my god, they do the most amazing cauliflower. I don't know
mhm.
if you've had it. It's like one of their sort of side or main dishes, and it's like it's obviously been fried a bit, and it's got this sauce on it that is absolutely like off the scale.
Yeah, yeah,
Ridiculous. I
good vibe.
love it there. Obviously, we have all been at home a lot this year. So, what are some of your specialities at home?
I'm not a great cook, to be perfectly honest with you. I need to get better at that, but my girlfriend's very handy in the kitchen. But if I am cooking, I make like a pretty mean vegan spag bowl.
Ooh,
But
okay.
it's just because I put about a bottle and a half of wine in there, and I just let it sit there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, do its thing. But yeah, I'm good at that. Quite good at doing brunches and like stuff like that. But that's just like Mexican sort of like health bowls, if that's the right way of saying it. With like black beans and kidney beans and guac and salsa and all that sort of stuff.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff, yeah. But it's one of those, honestly, this just sounds bad, but living in London, I will probably eat out 4 or 5 nights a week,
Yeah.
and it's not like a thing of like I'm going out for like a nice dinner. It'll be like I'm on the move from the studio out to a gig, or I'm going to an event or whatever. So I don't eat. Obviously now since I've been in lockdown, there's been a lot more cooking going on in the house, but also a lot of more deliveries. Uber
Yeah.
Eats,
You and me
takeaway stuff.
both, mate. You and me both.
Yeah, there's a lot of choices where I am. So
Obviously, I mentioned that the new album is out in January, Sucker Punch, and you guys were in Thailand
yeah,
recording that. What was that experience like? And I'm talking not just about food, I'm talking about the whole package.
yeah. No, it's a beaut. I'd never been before making this record, and I think that was maybe one of the draws. To be honest, was we've made records in. We've made obviously a few in England, but we've made 2 records in Los Angeles, a record in Nashville, and when the conversation started about where we'd make the new record, we were like weighing up a few options in the UK, and then somebody was like, "Well, what about that studio in Thailand called Karma?" And a few of our mates' bands have recorded there, and Matt and Dan were friends with the son of the owner, and there's a few different sort of conversations that were coming together about it, and I think we're in a period in our lives like where we needed an escape out of London, to be honest. And I live in Hackney, but the rest of the lads sort of still live in Surrey, and I think everyone was quite keen. Plus, it was like October, November, so we're kind of chasing the sun a little bit as well. And yeah, we went there, and it was just a very like it became like this musical rehab and like a complete utopia for everybody. Um, and yeah, just a really, I mean, if we want to talk about food, like we had homemade Thai food, Thai cooking every single day, and it was just like from this incredible like so there's Sar who like runs the accommodation and like the running of the studio, but she brings in her friends, and they'll spend all day cooking, whether it's your lunch or your dinner, there all day, and it always just smells just insane. And I remember when we got there, like one of the first things they said was like, we can do traditional Western food, or we were like, don't even dare cook that. Like we want to eat what you would have
As
every day.
authentically as possible.
Exactly, like that's part of the experience for us.
Yeah.
And really, the Thai people are beautiful in terms of just the way they are and the way they make you feel, and they're proud of their culture, and they want to share that with you, and that we felt that on every level. Like the studio was in a small little fishing village called Bang Charay, probably about 2.5, 3 hours from Bangkok. So we really were middle of nowhere. I mean, we could also drive up to Phuket, but for those that have an understanding of Thailand, Phuket is like not the one.
No.
Like it's like the red light district of
Yeah.
Thailand.
Yeah.
It's pretty moody.
Yeah.
We went. I think we went there. We went there once, and we had like a hangover-esque night, and we were like, yeah, we're good now. Do you know what I mean? Like we had a night of just debauchery and drinking like buckets of Long Island iced tea and tripping balls and all that sort of stuff. And we're like,
Did
yeah,
it
we
involve
don't.
any lady boys?
No, 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 it didn't. And yeah, no lady boys, no monkeys, no missing fingers, um, no gang. It was so weird because we were walking past this this bar, but in the middle of the bar was this huge boxing ring. It was just like kids like boxing, and like,
Jesus.
but you'd go in like you were only allowed in if you were A, drinking a lot, or B, betting on which kid was going to win fighting. And I was like, yeah, see, I'm not really feeling that, to be honest. But yeah, for the most part, we just sort of stay in the studio, and as I said, this small little fishing village which had like 2 or 3 restaurants, 1 or 2 like really nice bars or like hotels which had beautiful. But there's one hotel in particular we went there pretty much every day for the sunset and the cocktails, and as like an hour of sort of like we're taking it a step back from the studio. But for the most part, we were just so living inside that record that yeah, we just enjoyed the people that were around us or close to us. And I think we did one or two, like we took a boat out one day, and we had like a lazy Sunday where we took a boat out and did some island hopping and stuff like that. But yeah, it's an incredible place. I want to go back there when I'm not working.
Yeah, I've also heard there's like a really big sort of vegan like culture there as well in Thailand. My friend was there, and same time actually as you, end of last year, and she said that like the variety was incredible. It's all fresh, like it's all there for you.
Yeah, I didn't struggle at all. I
No.
think, I mean, we went to one night. We went to like one of our managers came out to Thailand to make sure we weren't just fucking around and spending loads of the label's money, which is basically just our money as well. And he came out and was just like, I was like, oh, there's an Italian place apparently which is really good, which is so strange. And because it was like of this time of year, it was completely dead, minus some of the locals. So we had like the run of this place, and we had like this really it's like an old Italian family. They've been there for like 20 years, but they went out there, bought this place, incredible food. Um, that was the only night that I kind of struggled with my veganism in terms of, fresh pasta. It's got eggs, it's got the butter, it's got all that sort of stuff. So they ended up making me some pretty like interesting. Well, it's just tomato and vegetables pizza, which was absolutely fine. But other than that, in terms of going around actually Thailand and finding restaurants, wasn't really a problem. And as I said, we
Yeah.
ate basically at the studio every day because we were living there. It was like an old resort that had been spec'd up to have a studio in one of the big rooms, and then it was like essentially 5, 6 hotel rooms. So
Sounds fabulous.
yeah, great.
Speaking of Sucker Punch, you guys have recently collaborated with Lou's Brews,
Yeah,
which is a artisanal hot sauce brand. I am a huge hot sauce fiend, so this is well up my street.
yeah.
It's sort of like a habanero base, which I'm very happy about because that's one of my favorite types of chili. Talk to me. Why, how, who, what, when? I'm excited. How hot
Yeah,
can you go? All of the above.
so so Lou says that it's the Lou Bruce says it's the hottest one they've done. Um, and I don't know if you've seen the packaging. I
I
know we're
have.
sending you one anyway, but
Yeah, it looks wicked.
it's literally my head getting blown off. To be perfectly honest with you, Matt, our bassist, came to us one day, been like, look, I've just seen this company, I've done this thing with one of our friends, Tom Begley. He has a band called Bosk, and they did something cool with them. He was like, I think it'd be really cool to do a hot sauce as part of like the album bundles and stuff like that. And it's yeah, kind of is a continuation of that relationship that we have with doing something, food wise, but also being like vegan friendly. And Matt, our bassist, is a massive, massive hot sauce guy. He can take it all the way. We have a series on our YouTube about called Matt and Max's Munchies. And a lot of that is them going off, and when we toured America a lot, going off and trying, wing places, or when they were in Philly, trying the Philly cheesesteaks and that sort of stuff. So
Oh my
um,
God, I need to get in one of the crazy sexy food walks that I do, where I
yeah,
basically go around. Well, obviously it's on a bit of hiatus right now, but I basically go around London or wherever I am and like go and find like the best of something. And so
sure,
actually on the list is to do the best like wings. They need to
yeah,
come on that. Or you need
yeah,
to come as well. You all need to come basically.
they'd love that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? It's funny. Like with hot sauce, I feel like you kind of like fall into two camps with it. Like I'm obsessed with it. Like I'm known back in the day to, this sounds quite basic, but I used to carry Tabasco in my handbag because I didn't want to get caught short if I like went to a restaurant, if I was traveling and the food just wasn't like tasty. And then you kind of have that other group of people that are like, I appreciate chili, but I feel like you putting the hot sauce on like removes all the taste and like the hard work that's been put into the dish. It's not like I'm dousing the food in chili, but I feel like actually it kind of like helps the flavor somewhat.
Yeah,
And I think
I
it also
hear.
depends, I guess, what you're eating. Like
Hmm.
I'm not going to eat Mexican food without hot sauce. Like it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, for sure. I hear. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'll put like sriracha on avocado on toast.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I never used to be big on like spicy food, and then I don't know. I think a few years ago, I just sort of really started getting more into like my Thai food and my Mexican food, and food with real like rich flavors and like
Mm.
not beige food, like food with real character. And yeah, that's when the hot sauce came out for me as well. So I completely agree with you. I don't think it's doing a disservice to the food that's on your plate. To be honest, you're just adding. It's no biggie. It's no biggie small.
What is your favorite hot sauce? Aside from your own, obviously.
Well, that's it. That I only have one favorite hot sauce, and that's the Sucker Punch Unit 6 hot sauce, which
Good
is
answer.
available on December 7th.
To just December 7th. And where can people get it from?
They can exclusively and only order it through our website, which I believe is unit6.com.
Okay.
And it's part of, at the moment, we're limiting it at the moment to 200, and it's going to be part of like a pre-order bundle for the album. And if those go well and they sell well, then there's obviously scope to, to do something a little bit more, a little bit extra with it. But that's where it's at the moment. But I've tried it, and it's very good.
Is it very hot?
It's very hot, and it's very
Good.
good.
Good. Do you like truffles by any chance?
Truffles,
Yeah, like do you like the taste of truffles?
truffle like truffle oil and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So there's I was just given a couple months ago this new truffle sauce that's coming out by a brand called Truff. It's truffled hot sauces and they come like
Mm.
hotter. They're atrociously priced at some stupid kind of money, but if you were to ever like sideline and virgin to another hot sauce aside from your own, I definitely recommend it.
Okay, nice. Truff. Okay, cool. I like that.
I recently had Nile Rodgers on the podcast a few weeks ago, and
How's
obviously,
that?
oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. Do you
I
know
bet.
what? He is a huge foodie,
Is it?
massive. I mean, he kind of was like blowing me away, like talking to me about all these like crazy concoctions he was making at home. And obviously, like he's the king of disco and everything. And he speaks about this really interesting sort of method called his deep hidden meaning when he's writing a song.
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of like goes by it like throughout his life. And it's obviously done him pretty well in terms of like if he can feel that deep hidden meaning whilst he's writing, whilst he's recording, I think he kind of like subconsciously knows he's like onto a winner. And I wondered kind of like in terms of you and the band, when composing and writing a song, like how does the process go for you? Like, do you have kind of like a rule that you sort of stick by, or is it all very, very organic?
It's really like every single song has the capacity to be written and delivered in a completely different way, to be honest with you. There's some songs, like if we take Sucker Punch the record, for example, there's some songs that we were all there for and wrote in the same room. And then there's songs that people brought in, a riff or a finished body of work, people added to put their own flex on, whatever. But I mean, historically, we used to all get in, when we were making a record, we'd all get in a large writing space together, like a large live room, and just jam basically. And as we've gotten older, and as the turnaround of things have had to be quicker, like we do a lot of writing on the road as well. So we have like a studio that we take with us, a studio setup, sorry. Um, and so a lot of the stuff is done on computers, to be honest, to start off with, um, because you kind of get a skeleton for an idea that way quite quickly. You can get sort of, rather than having to plug in and play and record everyone individually to get a demo, you can get a reasonably good demo, just some, putting it all together on your laptop and your keyboard and one or two plugins. So it really, really depends. Like we have a new song on a song on a new record called Glasgow, which was just a song that I'd been sitting on, that I'd written just in my house with a good guitar. Went in, played the lads a song, and I was like, I think you should try this, you should try that. We played it through like 2 or 3 times. Went, cool, that's a song done. That doesn't really happen like that as much for us anymore. Whether it's me doing that or somebody else bringing something in. So it really just depends, to be honest. But one thing I seem to know for sure is that You Me at Six only sound like You Me at Six when everyone's on there, So it doesn't matter how the idea gets brought in, it's about how it gets brought to life. And that's the really sort of important part for us as a band.
Well, best of luck with the album in January.
Thank you.
So I finish my chats with a few quickfire questions. Are you ready?
Cool. Yeah, let's go for it.
So my favourite snack in the entire world is a packet of crisps. What's your favourite flavour of crisps and why?
There's a company called Lentils. They do like sour cream and chive.
Are they the lentil chips? Like they're made of lentils?
Yeah, that, or they're made of. I think they're one of the. Or was it called the company called Hummus or something? I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I know exactly. I've got them downstairs.
Bigger one, yeah. They're pretty decent. That with any sort of guac or avocado.
You need to try the chili and lemon ones.
Okay. Yeah,
Like,
I've tried. No, I've tried them.
Love. What is the craziest food you've ever eaten?
Back in the day, when we were touring Australia, we had a barbecue at one of our friends' house, and that day I think everything was on the menu: crocodile, kangaroo, emu.
Oh my God.
Snake. I think everything.
Whoa.
I don't think I ate the snake. I know for a fact I ate the crocodile and the kangaroo and the emu. And I was like, okay, cool, that's me. That's me done.
I've actually heard that crocodile isn't that bad. Is it quite tough?
Yeah, it's kind of like, from what I remember, it was quite chickeny.
Yeah. Ooh,
I
don't know.
I don't recall me going back for a second bite.
No, I can't imagine.
It was more like a novelty thing.
What has been your most memorable meal?
So it's one or two things. It's either my mum's salmon and mushroom risotto, which was just obscene. Always one that I always think about even now. Or my grandmother, she used to make a apple crumble, which was just, like, recipe's been passed down for like 4 generations, and better sequoia in Wales, and she's brought it over and just used to just take me to a different dimension. It was, yeah.
Nice.
Special food. Food with love in it,
What is your favourite food? Or it could be a favourite meal or a favourite cuisine.
Favourite meal from like when I was literally a kid was spag bowl, and it's just carried on even now with the meat substitutes and stuff, the plant-based substitutes. It's always been spag bowl, will always be spaghetti. I'm never gonna not want spaghetti bolognese. Like, it's just never, for me.
It probably feels like home for you as well. Like, it's comforting.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's probably why it's one of the only things I can really cook.
Yeah. But at least you perfected it.
Yeah, for sure.
And finally, live to eat or eat to live?
I'd probably go with live to eat, because
Nice.
I think, as I said, like, food has always been a massive part of my life. Other than the fact that I enjoy eating it, I enjoy everything that comes with it. I enjoyed like the sort of the feeling of like learning about a person or a place. I enjoy the experiences that come from being around a table with people, the conversation that comes with that. Food for me isn't just something I pick up, eat, and then run off again. It's kind of like, even now during this lockdown period, where even if I've had a conversation and spoken non-stop to my girlfriend all day because we're literally inside each other's pockets, when it comes to eating, we'll still like, right, should we sit and eat at the table and put some music on, or should we sit and put on a film and eat there, or whatever? There's always something that goes alongside it. It's never just, So I think in that sense, yeah, definitely live to eat.
Perfect answer. Josh, thank you so much. I
No worries.
think that they need to get you up into Parliament with the powers that be so that you can start talking some sense about climate change and all the other bits and pieces that need to change in this world. You can follow Josh on social media at Josh Franceschi IVI. And also, please follow the band at YouMe@6 Official.
That's the one.
Josh, thank you. You've been an absolute pleasure. Until next time.
Thank you very much for your time. Cheers.
Thank you for listening this week. If you love what you hear, please subscribe and leave a lovely review. And if you can't get enough of me, follow me on Instagram at Crazy Sexy Food, and do visit the Crazy Sexy Food YouTube channel where there are plenty of shows for you to watch. Until next time, bye.